If you want to get clients for your content agency and you don't have millions of followers, big name and tons of proof, you have to be doing outreach, but not the one everyone told you to do. My name is Nemanja, I've scaled 2 content agencies to 6 figures, built a personal brand of over 50,000 followers, and I do all this while still managing to live life and do a lot of side quests. And I did it all by learning how to talk to people and get them to buy from me. So today, I'll show you, does cold outreach still work in 2025 and will it work in 2026? And if it does, how to get replies to your messages, where to find people to reach out to, and what to even do when people reply to your message. So let's get into it. Every single client I was ever working with and I ever helped had some problems with outreach. And a couple of days ago, when I was running an Instagram poll on my story asking what are your biggest problems, the biggest question was, does cold outreach still work in 2025? And the first question that comes to my mind to that is, why wouldn't it work? So there are 3 ways to market any offer. We got content, ads, and outreach. And I know people who are just doing organic content, just doing ads, or just doing outreach, and it's working well for all of them. And a couple of days ago, I was on Alex Hormozzi's virtual launch workshop where he was talking about all the things it took to launch his latest book and make $100 million from that launch. And even Hormozzi, the biggest business guy on the planet, was doing outreach to get more people interested in what he's selling. And that made me come to the conclusion. It's not about if it works or doesn't work. It's not binary. It's a spectrum of how well it works. It could be working really well for you or not working at all, depending on what you're doing. That being said, what are the things that determine how well will it work or where you're gonna be on this spectrum? Well, first, we gotta define what this means. It means consistently getting replies on the messages you're sending from the people who are interested in what you do. Simple. Back in the day, 2.5 years ago, when I tried selling my first ever content agency offer, I was doing mass outreach. And I hated it for multiple reasons. I was sending hundreds of messages every single day, hundreds of follow-up messages every single day. I was constantly getting ignored by people, needing to have a huge operation to cover everything and know who to follow up with and find all these people, and people are ghosting me, and it was terrible. So I changed my offer and I wanted to come up with a new way to find clients. So I started doing ads and I spent over $10,000 on ads, tested a bunch of ad creatives, spent a bunch of money, booked a bunch of sales calls, had a bunch of rejections, needed to even refund some clients, bunch of stress, and I was doing all that until I decided to shut down that offer as well. I wanted to find a new way, a different way, way number 3, that will allow me to get clients without throwing my money into the abyss, hoping to get someone interested, or without spending hundreds of messages, hundreds of follow-ups, and just waiting for people to get pity to get on a call with me, but I didn't know how to do it. Outreach looked like the best option, but I didn't know what to do differently than here. And after talking to multiple agency owners, watching countless of YouTube videos, banging my head against the wall, trying to figure this out, I finally found something that made everything click. And it was a clip from a very famous marketer, don't remember exactly who it was, who was asking his audience, if you had to write a letter and your life depended on its response, how would you write the letter? You would probably handwrite it yourself, you would make it really valuable for the reader, you would stamp it yourself with a really nice stamp, you would mail it personally, etc., etc. All just to emphasize how much effort you would put into something that really matters. And that's when it all clicked. I'm just gonna do that, just an online version of it. By the way, if you know who that person is, please let me know in the comments. So I just started implementing that, just an online version of it. So instead of sending hundreds of messages every single day, what I started doing is just sending 5 to 10 messages every single day. But those messages, full of value, fully personalized to the person I'm sending them to, and full of effort I put into them just to be able to send them over. And I immediately started getting responses from people who were super interested in what I have to do. And this approach allowed me to scale my offer number 3 to $10,000 a month in the first 2 months of launching it and starting to do this. Finally, the option that worked perfectly. But why did it work? And the reason this worked is because of a very simple principle. You know, when you're sitting down in your room, just like you're probably doing right now, you're doing something, you're watching something, it doesn't matter, and at the very corner of your eye, you noticed a little fly just flying through your room. Why that happens? How do you see it? It's so small, so unimportant, but you still see it. It's because our mind is created to notice the change in environment. It's a natural given instinct from God that helps us survive better. People just react to change. Change in environment catches people's attention. And that's what I did. I created a change in environment, and that caught people's attention. And people started replying to that. And that is the thing that will determine how well will your outreach work. How different you are from all the other people doing the outreach and sending messages to other people. And the easiest way to be different from everyone else is to just do what 99% of people are unwilling to do, which is doing upfront work and sending upfront value without guaranteed payout. That is how I discovered selective value-based outreach. So let's break down this type of outreach. Why is it value-based? Why is it selective? How to get people to reply to these messages? Where to find people, and what to even do when people reply to your messages. So first thing is, it's value-based because you're going to be sending value up front. The reason for sending value up front is, as I stated previously, is because this is the thing that 99% of people are unwilling to do. And if you're willing to do what 99% of people are unwilling to do, you're immediately going to stand out. You're going to be that fly in the corner of your eye that's going to catch people's attention because of the change in the environment. Second thing is, it's going to be selective. Now, what does that mean? Because you're sending value up front, you need to create that value, meaning you got to send people something that is valuable for them, something that's going to be personalized specifically to their situation and that they're going to find valuable. And that takes time, that takes effort. And it takes time, which means that you can't do hundreds of these every single day. It's basically impossible. The math is not going to be mathing, like time doesn't work that way. Because of that, you can just reach out to a couple of people every single day. That's why I mentioned I started reaching out to 5 to 10 people. That's kind of the upper limit that I found out would be okay, like 10 people every single day, without dropping the quality of the value that I send them. So that's when the term selective comes into play, because you gotta be really selective with what? Selective with prospects. Selecting the people you reach out to. And those prospects need to be really qualified for your service so that you don't waste your time and effort creating value for people that are not qualified. You don't wanna do that. So you gotta spend some time upfront as well, before you even start creating value, to find some really qualified prospects. Because qualified prospects, people who are actually good, are a huge part of this part of outreach. As you can see, because you're just doing so low volume, you're just reaching out to 5 to 10 people every single day. If you find 5 people that are completely unqualified, you can send the most valuable message in the entire world. It's not going to work, because those people cannot afford your service. They're not qualified for it. So you're going to make a mistake on step number 0, not even step number 1. So selective, find or select qualified prospects that you're going to reach out by sending value up front. That's what this means. That's the essential of this type of outreach. Now, how to get replies to your messages. That would be the second chapter, so to say. This is the first one, just to break it down. Second one is how to get replies. You need to do 2 things. First one is you need to create value that they care about. So you gotta send something that they care about. And second of all, you gotta apply the same principle for change of the environment. Or in other words, you gotta stand out. So what do I mean by that? First, you need to create something that they care about. Like, you can't be sending apples to people who like oranges. You gotta figure out what is the thing they need that would be really valuable to them, and then create and send them that. That is the first thing, obvious. And the second thing is to stand out. The single most important thing when it comes to doing outreach is to make sure that people actually go through your message and get to the value that you sent. And what is the best way to get someone to go to your message, to notice your message, to catch their attention, is to say something they cannot ignore. If you say something people can't ignore, they're gonna go through the message and they're gonna get to the value. And if they get to the value, if value that you sent is something that they care about, they're gonna reply. Now the big question is, what is the thing that people can't ignore? So just ask yourself, what you react to when someone says it? What are the things that you can't ignore? And majority of time, for majority of people, it is some of the problems that you have. If someone mentions a big problem or problems that you have, you cannot ignore that. You're gonna react to that. It's gonna catch your attention. So if you focus on people's problems and you say it in a way they can't ignore, they're gonna read your message. And if they read your message and you create value around something that they really care about, people will reply to your message and they're gonna be interested. Now, if they're interested, what do you do then? What do you reply when people reply to you and say, I'm interested, tell me more? The mistake that I see most of people make when someone tells them to tell me more about your offer or what do you, they start talking about the things that no one cares about. And that is the deliverables. So deliverables, or what you will do. What you will do. And clients do not care about what you will do. The only thing that they care about is what they will get. And I can't stress this enough. I mentioned this 100 times now. You cannot talk about what you will do and focus on yourself. You gotta talk about what they will get. It's the same principle as the one that I mentioned when I was talking about that famous marketer. Like, if you had to write one letter and your life depended on it, what would you do? You wouldn't talk about yourself. You would talk about the person you're writing to. And you would focus on them, on their needs, on their problems, on what they want. You would focus on them. You wouldn't focus on you and talking about you and how great you are and all the things that you can do. You will focus on all the things that they can get. And that is the big difference. And people start talking about edits, scripts, ideas, all of these posting, automations, ManyChat, AI, whatever, and people don't care about that. Now you're probably wondering, well, what do people care about if they don't care about what I will do? Well, people care about what they will get in a sense of what they will get from the things you do. Or in other words, what is the outcome that they're gonna get from the things that you do. That is what you need to talk about when someone replies to your message. Now, none of this would make sense if you don't reach out to actually qualified prospects. So the biggest question is, where do you find qualified prospects to reach out to? And majority of people make a huge mistake, and I know this because I was the same. What majority of people do is just find some qualified guy, go into suggested accounts and start scrolling there and kind of looking for people. But remember, with this entire way of doing outreach, you gotta think a little bit different and outside of the box. And the best advice he can give you is think about the place where qualified people for your offer hang out. Where would that be? Try thinking outside of the box. I can give you some examples that you can maybe use. For example, you can find the biggest authority in your niche who's coaching all the qualified people for your offer. And then see who are his clients, and by that find qualified prospects for your offer. Or you can find a mastermind where all these people hang out, get a list from everyone who was on that mastermind, and you create a list of people who would be qualified for your service. There's a bunch of other ways. You just gotta be creative and think a little bit outside of the box. I have a friend who was going to these masterminds, and he would go there and he would expect to learn nothing. He wouldn't even go there for the knowledge that he would get. The only reason why he was going there is to meet with new people and meet with people who are qualified. He would spend thousands and thousands of dollars just to get access into those rooms. He would make connections with people live, and they would trust him much more. And that's how he closed a lot of clients that I know, which is actually, when I look at it from this perspective, really, really fucking smart. When I went to my first mastermind ever, I thought like I'm gonna learn some, I don't know what, but majority of these masterminds, like 99.9999%, are just bullshit, like, you know, to create great content and get people to meet with each other. So going there, not expecting to learn anything new, is actually really smart, but just going there to make new connections, meet with people, and meet with actually qualified people, because in order for them to be in a room, they would need to spend, I don't know, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. So there's gotta be some person that's qualified to give that amount of money, and just having a contact of that person and having contact of multiple people that are able to do that is really worth the money. So that is how you do selective value-based outreach in 2025 and going into 2026. By the way, if you want to scale your content agency to $10,000 to $15,000 and beyond that, I have a 5-part mini series that I did here on YouTube. It's basically a full mini course for free. The link is going to be somewhere around here. Make sure to check that out, where I'm going in depth of every single thing that I know and I learned from scaling 2 content agencies to 6 figures. If it's God's will, I'll see you in the next video.